It's time to stitch out the banana split on our 2 scoops bench pillow. So I saved the banana split block for last, and that's because it is supposed to have this fabric, and I think the directions had the wrong size because this piece that I cut according to the directions, you can see, is just huge. So I will save that for something else, but it's this kind of off-white, and while it looks great in the scheme of things, again, it was hard to see the 3 little whipped creams and actually the banana. When you look at the block, you can't even tell that there is a banana there. So I am not going to use this. I pulled out some fabric. I debated on pink would have been cute, but I didn't have really a pink that I wanted to use with this. And so I pulled out some fabric. It's Kimberbell fabric, but I have several yards of this for something else I'm going to do. And I think I'm going to use this. Even though there is kind of the same color here and here, I think it goes with the block, and this is a little different because it has a print. So I am going to go cut this to size and put the interfacing on the back and then get started on the banana split block. So I will go to embroidery and to my USB, and I did not use software to combine these, and so I will open the quilting bundle, and this uses food 5 block by block, and I need the 4x6. I will hit set, and then I will go to add and go back to my USB and to the embroidery files folder and get this cute little banana split. This is another one of my favorite blocks, and I'll hit set. I do want to rotate this so it fits better in my 7x12 hoop, so I will select embroidery, and that combines those 2 files. And now I will go to layout and rotate, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees to the right. And then I want to note one more thing. So I have had my machine for just under a year and a half, and every video that I use my 7x12 hoop, I have had to use the 8x12 in my machine because I have not had a hoop size for 7x12. And so I was just thinking the other day that I have not updated my machine since I got it. So I went to the Brother website, and I think there's been 2 updates since I purchased my machine. And so I updated, and now one of the things that has been updated is now I have a 7x12 hoop. So that was a great surprise. So I'm going to select OK. And so now I don't have to bump this design anytime I use my 7x12 to the left to kind of compensate and how I've always done it in the past. But I am still hooping with my stabilizer, which is my muslin, the strip, and so that's coming off the top of the hoop, and I do want to save all of this, and so I will move my design down. So once that's ready to go, I will select OK, and then I always like to use the minus plus, and the first step is going to be the placement of the batting. After the placement line stitches, I will place the batting and place the fabric, and then I will come back and skip a few steps. So the second step is the tack down of the batting, and I cut my batting to size, and so I do not use this step. However, skipping these steps is always optional, and you can run all 5 steps of the background quilting, but I am going to use my down arrow to skip. The next is the placement for the fabric, and I have placed my fabric, and this placement line is only about 1/4 of an inch outside the batting line, and our fabric is much larger, and so I'm also going to skip that as well. I will run the tack down and then the background quilting. Now I am choosing to use a different thread color than the directions because I changed my background fabric. And so I am using just kind of the same minty color for my thread instead of white. I am so happy with this color and the color of the thread, and I love the background quilting. It's one of my favorites. So the next step is to do the placement line for the cute little whip toppings, and then we're going to place the flexi foam on top, tack that down, and trim those. So here is the placement for the banana, and of course I have used my ScanNCut to cut the banana, and I did this before I started using the steam seam, so I need to glue base this down, and so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue. Not too close to the edge and not too much. And then I'm going to place this as evenly as I can. And remember, I enlarge this slightly so it will go over these placement lines, but I want to try to get them as evenly over the placement lines as possible. That makes sense. And then I'm going to iron that to dry that glue and press it down. Now the next step is to tack down this applique, and generally when I've used my ScanNCut, I skip this because it should just basically be that same outline. And I do enlarge my applique pieces when I use my ScanNCut, and this banana on the edges seems a little bit more over that placement line than normal. So I am going to go ahead and run this placement line. And the reason I'm going to do that is if for some reason I have way, more outside of that placement line than I need, I'm going to trim it like you would a regular applique. So let's try it and see what happens. So you might be able to see that on these edges, I do have more than I want outside. The bottoms, or the length of banana is okay. You can tell I have a little bit more fabric on this side, so I didn't place it, exactly even, but that's probably what it would look like if I trimmed just my rectangle piece for the banana. However, I'm worried that this much is not going to be covered with the decorative stitching. So I am just going to trim, and I know that kind of might be, the whole reason you use a ScanNCut is so you don't have to trim, but I'm going to in this instance. So I think, again, those other pieces are fine. Okay, so now it's time to do the decorative trim. So I just ran the placement for the cute little dish, and so I have the silver mylar, and it looks the same on both sides, and so I'll just pick a side and I'm going to place it over that. And I am going to tape this down so it doesn't shift, because I am also going to be putting down clear vinyl. This is just the clear vinyl that I used for like the milkshake glasses. And I'm going to tape that down. This will be raw edge applique, and so we will trim this when it's done. And so let's get this cute dish stitched out. Now this little dish is going to be raw edge applique, and so that means that no other stitching is going to be put around the edges. And so I am going to go ahead and trim it. I could probably wait and trim the bottom part when it's out of the hoop, but I think I might just trim it all right now since I have to trim some of it. So with the mylar, let me get this tape up. I'm going to snip it just to where it starts stitching, and then this kind of rips away. I might have to use some tweezers and get some of that. And then to cut the vinyl, I'm just going to, and it's hard to see, but trim about 1/4 of an inch, not 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch or so, just outside those lines. All right, so I'll finish that up and then clean up that mylar. So I got most of the mylar ripped away, but I wasn't able to get all of it. And so if I were to do this again, I would not try to rip the mylar right next to the stitching. I would just cut it even with the vinyl. Usually mylar rips really easy, so I'm not sure why I had such a tough time, but it looks okay, but I would just cut it next time. All right, so for the next steps, we're going to do the ice cream scoops. And so we will be doing placement lines, and then I will glue baste the little scoops down, press them, and we'll do the decorative outlining. And so we'll do 3 scoops of ice cream. So you can see right here, I placed this a little bit too far to the right. You can see that there's a little bit more on the outside, and you can tell that the tack down didn't quite get this. Again, normally I don't do the tack down when I'm doing pre-cut pieces for appliques, but these don't have a wide, solid satin stitch, and so I want to make sure that I don't have too much fabric outside of that stitching line, which I do right here. So I'm going to trim that up and then do the decorative stitching. So I just ran the placement line for the fabric for the little whipped cream tops, and I left the pink in, and you can see it's a little bit outside of these. There's going to be a little bit of a decorative stitch around, but again, you can see that we don't really need it because look how big our fabric is. And so I will place this fabric, and remember, this is a fabric that I thought was for the banana, and so I marked it when I was doing my ScanNCut. And luckily, you know, that's not in the way. So I will place that, and then we will finish tacking this down, trimming, and running the decorative outline. and then our block will be ready to take out of the hoop and trim to size. So our cute little banana split is done, and I love it. I love this shiny metal looking dish, and I am really, really glad I chose a different background. You can look at this and tell that it's a banana right here and see the whipped cream. I do want to note that this little cherry on top is a button, and then it just, stitched the stem, so that will go on at the end. But I just wanted to show you the difference, and I know that this is just a printed out piece of paper, but look at the difference. You can't hardly see the whipped cream or that there's even a banana. It just kind of looks like the background fabric, and the little ice creams are they kind of look like they're floating. I love the darker background so that you can really see those details. All right, so I am going to take the basting stitches out. This is a background quilting that does not go into the seam allowance. So you can see here that there's none of the quilting. So I will remove the basting and cut the muslin right next to this batting line. And then I'm going to press. You can tell, this was a lot of stuff on this block, and so you can tell it kind of pulled in. So when I take this basting out and press, that will really help that to lay flat. And then I will cut it to size with my pop ruler. All right, let's finish this block.